Chapter 336, Memory Impairment. Su Ro was worried that Fang Hao would cause her to miscarry. She was actually afraid that Fang Hao would harm her. Fang Hao was momentarily stunned, then angrily hung up the phone. He went to the side and lit a cigarette, preparing to take his son home. "Dad, I haven't seen Mom yet. I want to see Mom." The son was not happy. Fang Hao said, "No, your mom is with her new husband. Do you want to meet your mom's new husband? She loves him the most, not you." "Oh, then I don't like Mom." The son's face darkened, looking very unhappy. Fang Hao got into the police car, intending to go to the airport. However, when he was about to leave the hospital gate, he was stopped by the security. They wouldn't let him pass because someone was looking for Dr. Fang and was on the way. Fang Hao was puzzled. Lu Jing was still under reproductive protection. She probably wouldn't meet any men until her next menstrual period. Su Yucheng wasn't in this hospital, he had gone to Europe for a visiting scholar program. Although Zhou Long had been transferred here, he was immediately sent to party school upon arrival. This was a sign of promotion. Fang Hao didn't know anyone here, so who could be looking for him? After waiting for a while, he saw Su Buiyuan hurrying out, accompanied by an elderly doctor, who was Zhou Fen's attending physician and a professor at the hospital. "Professor Su, are you looking for me?" Fang Hao rolled down the car window and asked Su Buiyuan. "Professor Su." Su Buiyuan felt the distance and differential treatment because Fang Hao had just called Zhou Fen Mom, indicating that Fang Hao only recognized Zhou Fen. However, Su Buiyuan ignored this and said, "Xiao Rou said you knew the cause of your mom's illness and how to treat it. Why didn't you discuss it with me? You just left without saying a word." He introduced the person beside him, saying, "This is Professor He Dun from the National Health Commission." Professor He Dun extended his hand and said to Fang Hao, "Dr. Fang, I've heard your name more than once. I've also studied and learned from the cases you treated. Oh, I'm also a classmate of Professor Zhu Shi. He mentioned you several times and wanted to bring you to the capital. Professor Zhu Shi was my doctoral supervisor. What a coincidence." Fang Hao smiled faintly and then said seriously, "My mom's condition is related to the central nervous system. I suspect she ingested a neurotoxin. Please conduct relevant tests in this regard." Neurotoxin? This is my personal opinion, and you can consider it as a reference. Of course, there are many data I can't see, so I can't determine the type of neurotoxin. Time is of the essence, please arrange the tests. "Dr. Fang, how about staying and consulting with us?" "No, thanks. I trust you." Fang Hao closed the window, not wanting to talk anymore. He drove straight to the airport, took the earliest flight, and flew back to Jiangdong City. At the airport shop, Fang Hao bought toys for his son, bringing back the joy of childhood. It was already 8 p.m. when he returned to the hospital. Fang Hao went to acupuncture for Old Tang. Old Tang felt a warm flow in his legs under the effect of acupuncture, and she knew that this was the difference between Fang Hao and other traditional Chinese medicine masters. The appearance of this warm flow sensation and the recontrol of her legs were getting faster and faster. Satisfied, she thought of something and asked, "How's Professor Zhou doing?" "My mom ingested a neurotoxin, injuring the central nervous system. She is currently in a coma. When I came, Professor He Dun was arranging tests. Once we confirm the type of toxin, we can remove it." "Ingested a neurotoxin? What does that mean? Did she take it by mistake, or was she poisoned by someone? Although we still need to see what type it is, considering the severity of my mom's condition, the suspicion of being poisoned is the greatest. If there's anything we can do, just let us know. Li Jun is at your disposal 24/7. "Professor Cheng, you're exaggerating. You don't need to trouble yourselves. I need to see how the people from the Zhou family react. I am now an outsider, not qualified to care." Fang Hao felt helpless. After divorcing Su Ro, he had no connection with the Zhou and Su families. The already distant relationship had become even more estranged now. Back home. It was already past 11 when Fang Hao finished helping his son wash up and put him to bed. Ding ding. There was a video call on WeChat, and he glanced at it to find his shameless ex-wife calling. He contemplated hanging up directly but decided to answer. He saw his wife not in the hospital but in a hotel, still in the bathroom. When she noticed him in the study, she aimed the camera down, revealing her small belly. The pregnancy was in its early stages, with a subtle protrusion. Elsewhere was more eye-catching. Fang Hao said, "What disgusting thing played by Zhang Lingtian are you flaunting now? Honey, you've gone too far." Su Ro moved the camera to her face, then left the bathroom angrily, returning to bed. She said, "I want to see our son." Let me see our son. The son is already asleep. Fang Hao was concerned about Professor Zhou. He asked, has Professor Zhou's test results come out? They have. I'll send them to you shortly. We're currently discussing the treatment plan. Su Rou didn't insist on seeing their son but sent the test report to Fang Hao. Fang Hao sighed and said, Su Rou, you really have the luck of a wicked person. Even if your mother wakes up, you can ignore her feelings and choose to be openly with Zhang Lingtian. Because this neurotoxin damages the hippocampus of the brain, causing changes in neurotransmitters and harming memory. When your mother wakes up, she might not remember you too. Forgetting painful memories is the happiest thing. Su Rou was shocked and asked, what do you mean? Are you saying my mother will lose her memory? Why are you surprised? Your mother was injected with this toxin at Tianyi Hospital, probably by your old lover. He went to great lengths to clear obstacles to be with you. Next step might be your father. Su Rou, you're getting married. By then, a pear blossom will suppress a sea of peaches, a beautiful story in Jiangdong City. Husband, you. Don't worry, I won't be generous enough to attend your wedding. I won't cause trouble for you. I'll stay at home drawing small circles and cursing you to have an unfortunate end. Husband, you won't be so malicious. You're not that kind of person. Do not advise me to be generous without experiencing my suffering. Fang Hao turned the video towards the computer, displaying pictures of Zhang Lingtian and Cheng Yu kissing. He said, do you know why your mother went to Tianyi Hospital? Because I showed her these photos. She told me that you customized the world's only watch for Zhang Lingtian 5 years ago. You were already with the old guy 5 years ago. Why did you look for me? If you wanted a scapegoat, why not find someone else? Even if I, 4 years ago, foolishly fell in love with you, you should have told me clearly. I might have been willing to be with you, to get your beauty and hush money. But you didn't tell me, you deceived me. Your mother also saw something else from the photos. She went to Tianyi Hospital the next day to find Zhang Lingtian. Do you think she figured out that you liked Zhang Lingtian from the watch you gave him? Listening to this, Su Rou trembled more and more. Finally, she retched, scolding loudly, Fang Hao, you bastard, why did you let my mother see these photos? My mother's current condition is all because of you. Fang Hao, you're a complete bastard, a sinister and cunning villain, a damn scoundrel. Chapter 337, Call my son quickly. Fang Hao was accustomed to his ex-wife's tirades, so he waited for her to calm down before saying, don't you also have something to use against me, something that could ruin me? Why don't you bring it out? Let's see who wins. You? Su Rou hurriedly took a deep breath, calmed herself, and said, husband, don't you know that I'm pregnant? You're making me angry like this. It might affect the child's development, and that wouldn't be good. I want to stay calm. I want to be unmoved by my husband's words, and I want to remember my original intentions. Not forgetting the original intentions? Your eyes are as bright as a galaxy, but you purposely leave me out of it. Fang Hao had long been as heartbroken as a dead man. Unmoved, he said, the neurotoxin in your mother is of unknown origin and extremely harmful. If you get affected, you might not remember anything. Oh, under the circumstances of not forgetting your original intentions, you'll only remember old dog Zhang. But that's not the worst result. Husband, can't you speak more politely? You're at least a master's, or, to be accurate, a doctorate. With your abilities, you're bound to get a doctorate sooner or later. You should be careful with your words to showcase your level. Su Rou, you're avoiding the issue. You're just protecting your old dog lover. Fang Hao hung up the video call and found that Su Buiyuan had also sent an email. It contained more detailed information about Zhou Fan's examination report, including a set of CT and other imaging photos. He called and asked, Professor Su, did the experts there explain what these data mean? They said that even if your mother wakes up, she may face the possibility of amnesia. Fang Hao, will my mother really forget us? Su Buiyuan sounded very discouraged, with a hint of choking in his voice. Fang Hao was also uncomfortable, but he had no intention of comforting. Instead, he said, in theory, she could forget anyone, and the worst result is forgetting everything and everyone. After all, the damage is to the hippocampus and neurotransmitters, which are crucial carriers of memory. Without carriers, it's like a damaged and formatted disk. However, you and your mother have lived together for so many years, love has penetrated deep into your bones, and family ties are thicker than blood. Even if she forgets someone, she shouldn't forget you. Fang Hao, with your medical skills, do you have a better solution? I'm not there, and I can't get first-hand information. I can't draw conclusions rashly and disrupt the consultation results of your expert team. In fact, The neurotoxin has already been identified, and the treatment method is also basically confirmed because it's currently the only proven and effective one. Just trust Professor He Tun and his team. Fang Hao, thank you. Without your reminder, we wouldn't have considered the neurotoxin. Well, professionals do professional things. Professor Su, if there's nothing else, get some rest. Fang Hao. Oh, is there anything else? Can you call me Dad one more time? I realize now that in critical moments, only you can be relied upon. I regret letting Xiaoro marry you. I regret it so much. Yeah, I've already divorced Su Ro. Fang Hao held back his emotions and hung up the phone. He took out a cigarette, lit it, and realized that his hand was shaking when he made the call. His gaze became increasingly blurred, and something cool dripped down his face. Next day, when Fang Hao arrived at the office, he found a middle-aged couple waiting for him. Director Fang, you must save our daughter, you must save her. The woman approached, her face half in tears. Fang Hao was puzzled, but the nurse beside him explained, Director Fang, their daughter is the lady who was poisoned by heavy metals yesterday. Oh, these are Chen Mei's parents. Fang Hao asked the nurse, but he hadn't seen Chen Mei. He said, Chen Mei didn't come to me, she didn't ask me for treatment. Moreover, we know what heavy metal poisoning it is, and there's a detoxification method. Lowering the heavy metal content to a normal level is enough. You don't need to worry. Mrs. Chen said, Mei Mei went to visit, she wants to question that damn Zheng Quan, she wants to find out why Zheng Quan was so ruthless. Mr. Chen added, Director Fang, we trust your abilities more. You understand Chinese medicine, you know how to regulate. We not only want Mei Mei to be detoxified, but we also want her body to recover to a normal condition. I've researched it, those with heavy metal poisoning often have sequelae. I don't trust other doctors, I only trust you, Director Fang. Alright, but I can't easily accept patients now. Go find our Dean Chen, let him agree to admit Chen Mei, and then transfer her to me. Fang Hao suddenly remembered that Dean Chen and Chen Mei both had the last name Chen, they were probably relatives. He also wanted to know why Zheng Quan would poison Chen Mei in such a vicious way. After all, they had just gotten married and finished their honeymoon. In the world, there is no hatred without reason. What was Zheng Quan's motivation for such vicious actions? Li Jun provided the recording and transcript of Zheng Quan's confession at the time. Zheng Quan only said that Chen Mei was a slut and must die, without specifying the exact reason. Huang Yidao came over, giving Fang Hao a thumbs up, and said, You've really brought glory to our Jiangdong Provincial People's Hospital. You went to the capital, pointed out the cause of your mother-in-law Professor Zhou, and let the talents there find a treatment method. Otherwise, those experts and professors, even if they rack their brains, they wouldn't think of it. In the end, they would treat Professor Zhou like a dead horse. You've taught a great lesson. This guy, aren't you from the capital? Are you mocking your former employer like this? Isn't this a bit of a self-slap in the face? Fang Hao said, It's just a coincidence. I happened to see the latest reports from abroad when I was researching the brain's nervous system. Every time you perform surgery on Zhang Jun, on Zhou Fen, on others, you always say you just happened to see relevant reports, that you happened to study it, and you mastered it. You're so coincidental. There's only one explanation, you have a thorough grasp of everything, mastering one principle to understand 100. You are the most amazing one I've ever seen. Are you flattering me early in the morning? What do you want? Have lunch, the most expensive place here, the Star Sea Hotel, you can charge whatever you want. Oh, you're so willing? Is someone asking you to perform surgery, and you plan to shift the blame to me? Secretary Guo's granddaughter has arrived, specifically for you. You're divorced now, so I'm matchmaking for you too. Let's talk about it later. Fang Hao left, starting his work for the day. At the capital hospital. After targeted treatment, Zhou Fen slowly woke up. She raised her eyes, glanced at the person standing by the bedside, her gaze blank and unfamiliar. She scanned the room, not finding the face she wanted to see, and couldn't help but ask anxiously, Where is my son? Su Buiyuan and the others were a bit flustered. Su Ro said, Mom, you only have me as a daughter. You don't have a son. Zhou Fen said, I have a son. Don't argue with your mom. Su Buiyuan gently asked, Zhou, who is your son? Fang Hao. Everyone was surprised, but they also breathed a sigh of relief. If she could remember Fang Hao, an outsider, she should be able to remember their close relatives. Su Buiyuan smiled and asked, Zhou, who am I? Zhou Fen said, I don't recognize you. Su Buiyuan's face became serious. Su Ro asked, What about me? Zhou looked at Su Ro and said, "Aren't you the divorced daughter-in-law? What are you doing here?" I am your daughter, not your daughter-in-law." Su Ro urgently asked, "Mom, do you remember who I am? What is my name? You have divorced my son, how would I remember who you are? Love whoever you want." Zhou glanced at Zhou Xiang and others, saying, "Who are all of you, and what are you doing here? Quickly find my son. Unfilial children, what is he busy with? Does he think that I'm about to die, so he doesn't need to take care of me anymore? Doctor, quickly inform him, quickly call him here. Otherwise, I will refuse treatment. I reject treatment." Su Ro and the others looked at each other, all with serious expressions. Chapter 338, We Are Not of the Same Kind. At the Provincial Temporary Detention Center, Chen Mei waited for a long time and finally saw her husband, Zheng Quan, whom she loved and hated. At this moment, Zheng Quan looked extremely dejected, his eyes lifeless. Even through the glass, he could feel his wife's anger and disappointment. Picking up the phone, he first said, "I have signed the divorce papers. You are free." Chen Mei's expression improved slightly. Divorce was also a topic she wanted to discuss. She was afraid that Zheng Quan would cling on, so his proactive decision to divorce suited her. But her anger had not subsided. She asked, "I married you and loved you. Why did you poison me?" Zheng Quan said, "You know it in your heart." Even more infuriated, Chen Mei said, "I know nothing. I haven't betrayed you, nor have I offended you. Zheng Quan, give me a clear explanation." Gritting his teeth, Zheng Quan said, "Ask yourself. Although you married me, your heart is not with me." Frowning, Chen Mei asked, "What do you mean? Have I done anything to betray you? Your heart is thinking about Fang Hao. You're talking nonsense. I've married you, and I haven't thought about any other man. Do you think I'm blind? If Fang Hao proposed to marry you or have an affair with you, would you still have married me? You. Zheng Quan, you are really heartless. I gave you everything, and you slander me like this. Don't deny it. You are deceiving yourself. Zheng Quan, even if I once had a crush on Fang Hao, I have no relationship with him. I gave my innocence to you. If you are so petty, ask yourself, didn't you secretly admire Su Ro? You even invited her out for drinks several times. I wonder how many times you got her drunk. Don't you have any qualification to be jealous of Fang Hao? I didn't sleep with her. Don't talk nonsense." Scornfully, Chen Mei said, "She got drunk, and you took her to a hotel. If you didn't sleep with her, then dogs can fly. These things happened before we got married. We were just starting our relationship, and I didn't plan to go all the way with you. After all, I was jealous of Su Ro. If she was played by you, maybe Fang Hao would divorce her, and I would have a chance. Unfortunately, Fang Hao knows nothing. If I could have her." Regret, sorrow, and a hint of fear flashed in Zheng Quan's eyes. He said, "Forget it. What's the use of saying these? I really haven't touched her. Oh, Fang Hao and Su Ro divorced. If you still think about Fang Hao, go after him." "What? Fang Hao got divorced? Why didn't Su Ro tell me?" Chen Mei was surprised, but a trace of joy appeared in her eyes. She felt that the opportunity to be with Fang Hao had truly come. "You can ask her. I won't see you again. Don't come again." Zheng Quan affectionately looked at Chen Mei, knowing that there might not be another chance to have this woman. His heart was extremely painful as he hung up and left. Chen Mei said, "Zheng Quan, don't hang up. You haven't answered me yet. Why do you hate me so much, wanting to push me to the brink of death and using this slow-acting poison? Even if I spoke well of Fang Hao, I haven't had any contact with him. You have moral quirks, and you shouldn't be so extreme. There must be some misunderstanding. What did I do wrong?" Zheng Quan gritted his teeth and said, "Do you have to ask so clearly? Shouldn't you have told me? Fine, I'll tell you. You said Fang Hao is older and more enduring than me, damn it. When we were intimate, you only thought of him, and that's when you got excited. You even called me a bitch. You said I would eventually cuckold you, so I decided to ruin you." Zheng Quan spoke angrily, then hung up and left. Chen Mei was stunned, as if she had been stimulated by something. She thought that mentioning Fang Hao in front of Zheng Quan would be adding some spicy flavor to the situation. However, she didn't expect Zheng Quan to take it seriously, to actually believe it and be affected by it. The problem was, Zheng Quan was the one who brought up this topic in the first place. How could he blame her? Unable to see Zheng Quan anymore, someone came in and took her away. She had entered through the green channel and had to leave through the same channel. She arrived at the Provincial People's Hospital, and with her parents' help, she went through the admission process. The attending doctor was none other than Fang Hao. Before the treatment, Chen Mei asked her parents and other nurses to leave. She wanted to talk privately with Fang Hao. She whispered, "I just met Zhang Qian. He poisoned me out of jealousy towards you." Fang Hao was surprised and said, "How is this related to me? Even though he's in prison, he still wants to tarnish my reputation. Does he feel better now, less guilty?" Chen Mei explained, "No, it does have something to do with you. When Zhang Qian and I were intimate, he was a bit twisted, liking to mention other women. One time, he mentioned your wife." "Oh, ex-wife. I heard you got divorced, and Su Ro is your ex-wife." He got excited when he mentioned Su Ro, and I brought up you. Fang Hao furrowed his brows. He had previously suspected Zhang Qian's involvement with his ex-wife and even had a paternity test done between Zhang Qian and Fang Jiajia, proving they were not related. Chen Mei continued, "He claimed to have touched Su Ro, and I said you were better. He harbored a grudge against me for that. Although he knew nothing happened between you and me, he feared I might cuckold him. That's why he decided to ruin me. You really brought this upon yourself." Fang Hao, aware of his ex-wife's promiscuity, felt pain when reminded of it. He went through cycles of breakdowns and recovery. He asked, "Why did Zhang Qian come out to take the blame?" "I didn't get a chance to ask." He got angry and left. "Fang Hao, your divorce with Su Ro was a good decision. I've seen Su Ro drunk before, taken to a hotel by Zhang Qian. You can probably guess what happened. Zhang Qian took the drunken Su Ro to a hotel." Fang Hao shuddered. He had fantasized about such a situation, but he couldn't believe his ex-wife would stoop so low. After all, what did Zhang Qian have? He wasn't handsome, and he wasn't wealthy. What could attract his ex-wife? He sighed and said, "You should have told me earlier, and we could have divorced sooner. At that time, your child was only a week old. I couldn't bear to. But no matter what, you are divorced now." Chen Mei looked at Fang Hao affectionately, and the more she looked, the more she fantasized. Fang Hao was divorced, and she could pursue him without any reservations, then be together with him. 2 years ago? What a terrible woman. Fang Hao said, "Is there anything else?" "Nothing. Fang Hao, don't worry about Zhang Qian. I divorced him, and it's no longer my concern. I won't see him again. Let's be together." That night, we almost went all the way because you were still someone else's husband. Now that you're divorced, you have no psychological burden, and you are a free man. Chen Mei directly confessed her feelings to Fang Hao. "Be together? No." Fang Hao rejected and said, "Chen Mei, do you think there's a difference between you and Su Ro?" Fang Hao, Chen Mei suddenly realized she had divorced, and she was not the same person she used to be. She had been rejected by Fang Hao. She hurriedly said, "We are both divorced, and we are the same kind of people. Let's rebuild our families, comfort each other. Isn't that good? We may both be divorced, but we are not the same kind of people." Chapter 339, This is my private matter. Though disdainful of Chen Mei, Fang Hao didn't neglect his duty as a doctor. He treated Chen Mei as a patient and followed the prescribed procedures. After finishing the treatment, he left the ward and sent a message to Li Jun, expressing his intention to have a private conversation with Zhang Qian. Li Jun, despite being puzzled, made the necessary arrangements. In a hurry, a nurse approached Fang Hao, urging him to visit the director's office urgently as the director had an important matter to discuss. Fang Hao, confused but compliant, went to the director's office. "Fang Hao, stop your current work and head straight to the airport. The fastest flight has been booked for you to go to the capital," Director Chen exclaimed, sounding a bit anxious. Perplexed, Fang Hao inquired, "Can you tell me the reason?" "I don't know why either. The secretary of the Provincial Health Bureau called me and instructed me to arrange this for you," Director Chen explained, his urgency evident. Fang Hao furrowed his brows and dialed the number back. After a brief wait, the secretary answered, and upon questioning, Fang Hao learned that Zhou Fen had awakened, and she specifically requested his presence. Ending the call, Fang Hao informed Director Chen, "No need to go." "Why?" Director Chen asked, puzzled. The secretary had explicitly asked for Fang Hao to go, so why was Fang Hao refusing? Was he ignoring the top-level connections? Fang Hao replied, "It's not official business. It's just my ex-mother-in-law's family causing trouble for no reason." He left directly, going to treat Cheng Yu. An hour later, Director Chen personally came over. "Fang Hao, I asked you to go to the airport, but you didn't. The plane waited for an hour, causing delays for dozens of passengers. Moreover, the capital called to urge your presence. Please comply. I'm getting old, don't make things difficult for me," Director Chen said with a deep sense of resentment. If Fang Hao didn't have unique medical skills and couldn't be easily replaced, Director Chen would have fired him long ago. Do you know about Zhou Fen's situation? Fang Hao asked. I don't know. What's going on? Director Chen genuinely wasn't aware of Zhou Fen's condition. Firstly, he was attending a lecture in Jiangdong City that day. Secondly, Tianyi Hospital had kept the news under wraps. Lastly, both the Zhou and Su families had maintained silence. It's because my ex-mother-in-law, Zhou Fen, has regained consciousness and wants to see me, Fang Hao explained. Then go and see her. I don't want to see her or any of my ex-wife's relatives. You don't want to go? That's right. But the secretary of the health bureau personally called and asked for you. It's not just your private matter. What I mean is, you should go according to the arrangement. Ah, Director Chen, you said this is my private matter. Then make a call now to resolve this. Don't give me trouble. I'm getting old, and my body can't handle your constant back and forths. Director Chen stared at Fang Hao. He was worried that after going there, Fang Hao might receive another call from the provincial health bureau or the capital, making him run around again. Fang Hao took out his phone and called Zhou Fen's number. Su Buiyuan answered, saying, now that Professor Zhou is awake, she only remembers you. If you don't come, she refuses medical treatment and won't eat. She even said that she doesn't remember me, Su Ro, or the others. She only remembers you. Only remembers me? Fang Hao was puzzled, but he also furrowed his brows. He said, after waking up, her body is fine. Why stay there? Transfer her back to Jiangdong City. The familiar environment might stimulate her memory of you guys. I'm very busy here, taking care of my son. I don't have the energy for back and forths. In short, I won't go. Fang Hao ended the call and looked at the old man in front of him. Director Chen, this is a private matter. It has nothing to do with the hospital or you. You don't need to worry about it. Director Chen nodded and left, seemingly lost in thought. After concluding Cheng Yu's treatment, Fang Hao received a call from Li Jun, informing him that the meeting with Zheng Qian could be arranged. Fang Hao quickly descended, got into Li Jun's car, and departed. While in the car, Su Ro called, but Fang Hao didn't answer and simply turned off his phone. Li Jun informed him, oh, Dr. Fang, I almost forgot to tell you. Once you enter, your phone will be temporarily confiscated. Electronic communication devices are not allowed inside. Alright. Fang Hao didn't dwell on the matter and changed into a police uniform in the car. He then remembered something and asked, if I'm exposed while in disguise, how will you explain it? Don't worry. Your ID is genuine, and there are people to vouch for you. As long as you don't encounter someone who can immediately recognize you, and even if you're exposed, it doesn't matter. At that time, you can sign a contract and become a police officer, Li Jun assured. Li Jun thought of something and added, we've invited you for a forensic medicine TV program before, even though it didn't air. We can give you the job title of a forensic scientist. It'll be a plausible cover. No, if I really become a forensic scientist, who would come to the hospital for medical treatment? Fang Hao stopped Li Yunya. He was already regretting agreeing to participate in the forensic TV program, even though he did it in his spare time. At that time, he only spent an hour analyzing the cause of death for a corpse. Since it didn't involve pubic symphysis surface examination to determine age, just forensic dissection, it only took an hour. Of course, the broadcasted segment would only include entering the forensic lab and the few minutes of reading the autopsy report. The scenes in between were too gruesome and wouldn't be aired. At that time, he had the thought of provoking his ex-wife Su Ro and asserting that he wasn't worthless after the divorce. However, it didn't mean he wanted to become a forensic scientist. Zheng Qian was currently under surveillance. Apart from those entering through the Green Channel, hardly anyone could visit him. When Fang Hao arrived, he saw a woman leaving who was also wearing a police uniform. Although she was trying to hide her face, Fang Hao recognized her as Zheng Yue Huo. How did this woman manage to impersonate a police officer? Was she here to see Zheng Qian? When passing each other, Fang Hao took advantage of rubbing his face to disguise himself and walked past. Zheng Yue Huo also didn't expect to encounter Li Jun. She covered half of her face with a yawn, attempting to avoid being recognized by Li Jun. After walking a considerable distance, Fang Hao finally told Li Jun about the encounter. Li Jun was shocked and quickened his pace, heading towards Zheng Qian's monitored area. When he confirmed that Zheng Qian was still alive, he called over a nearby prison guard and asked, who approached Zheng Qian just now? A woman came to have Zheng Qian sign something. Did she give Zheng Qian any items to eat or apply? No, but it seemed like she talked to Zheng Qian for a few minutes. Who allowed her to enter? The Labor Bureau. Li Jun asked the guard to leave and spoke quietly to Fang Hao. This Labor Bureau is the person who replaced Zhang Lingtian's fingerprints last time. We've been investigating his issues in secret. The higher-ups want to see if there are any more fish to catch. When the time comes, we'll cast the net and catch them all. Alright, that's your business. Create a separate space for us, and I'll talk to Zhang Qian. Fang Hao acknowledged his limited abilities. If he got involved in this power play, he would be crushed to pieces. Chapter 340, Complete Suppression. After finishing his lunch, Zhang Qian returned to his separate cell. Upon entering, he noticed a police officer standing inside, facing away and looking out the window. Zhang Qian cleared his throat and said, "Comrade, give me some space. I need to rest." When the police officer turned around, Zhang Qian was shocked to see an exceptionally handsome face. It was extremely familiar, and he exclaimed, "Fang Hao, why are you here?" "I came here the same way you did," Fang Hao replied casually. Taking a glance at Zhang Qian, Fang Hao observed that he maintained a calm demeanor. There was no sign of the insecurity, panic, or hesitation that Wei Wen had exhibited. Is Zhang Qian so composed because he's here to experience life in prison? Did Zhang Yue Huo provide him with some kind of reassurance? Can he really overturn the accusations of framing and poisoning? What other tricks does Zhang Lingtian have up his sleeve? After a moment of contemplation, Fang Hao directly asked, "I want to know why you decided to frame Zhang Lingtian." "You're talking nonsense. I don't understand what you're saying," Zhang Qian replied without hesitation. Fang Hao continued, "I'd been to the scene of Cheng Yu's fall. The fingerprint on the railing, the one Li Jun that I discovered first, was compared to Zhang Lingtian's in the system database, and it matched. Even though you have the capability to replace it with yours, if it weren't for my experiences, I wouldn't believe you had such means and abilities. You don't know a lot of things. Fang Hao, I don't understand why you've come to find me." "I won't say anything. Just leave," Zhang Qian coldly responded. "I know about Zhang Lingtian and Su Rou. I have solid evidence of Su Rou betraying me," Fang Hao exclaimed. "You?" Surprised by Fang Hao's revelation, Zhang Qian sneered and said, "So, you divorced Su Rou, what else do you want to say? If it weren't for you stepping in for Zhang Lingtian, he would be serving his sentence right now. His reputation would be ruined. But you showed up and did what?" Fang Hao couldn't contain his anger and wanted to give Zhang Qian a good beating to vent his frustration. Unexpectedly, Zhang Qian remained calm, even retreating a couple of steps unconsciously. However, he quickly remembered something, straightened his back, and challenged Fang Hao, "Then hit me. Go ahead and hit me." Haha. Knowing that his fingerprints had been replaced and their search records erased, even the computer Li Jun had used had been changed. There was no trace of that fingerprint in the world. Zhang Lingtian had been released. His plan to frame him had succeeded. Zhang Qian scornfully looked at Fang Hao and said, "You don't dare. Zhang Qian, you're truly useless. You played with Su Rou, yet you couldn't win her heart. I don't need to play with Chen Mei, she already has me in her heart. Chen Mei called you a third-rate worthless man, oh, just about this size, really disgraceful for a man." Fang Hao extended his index finger and made a gesture, mocking Zhang Qian. It meant, "This is the size you've got. You?" Zhang Qian's triumphant expression instantly turned gloomy. Fang Hao's gesture had hit the mark. Zhang Qian's little brother was indeed just that size. Fang Hao continued, "Zhang Qian, you're really trash. You played with Su Rou and couldn't even win her heart. Unlike you, I don't need to play with Chen Mei. She already has me in her heart. Can you hold her, let alone make love to her? No wonder Chen Mei calls you a third-rate man." Fang Hao had seen Zhang Qian's inmate ID photo, where he was required to strip. At that time, Zhang Qian was nervous, flustered, and coupled with his recent experience with Chen Mei, his little brother was completely deflated, lacking confidence. Zhang Qian pounced, but Fang Hao easily toppled him onto the bed. Despite Zhang Qian's struggles, he couldn't break free. Fang Hao was physically superior. "You're so weak. Can you even hold Chen Mei, let alone make love to her? No wonder Chen Mei calls you a third-rate man." Fang Hao sneered, releasing his grip when Zhang Qian stopped resisting. He had already restrained himself a lot. If not for the fear of causing trouble for Li Jun, he would have really wanted to beat Zhang Qian half to death. He said, "I did a full-body CT for Chen Mei. With her body structure, where could there be narrow paths? With your 3-inch thing, how deep can you go? You can't reach anything. You?" Zhang Qian, feeling embarrassed and angry, glared at Fang Hao but dared not pounce on him again because he was no match. "What about Su Rou? You've been cuckolded by Su Rou. You foolish idiot, What qualifications do you have to talk about me? Trying to provoke me? Fang Hao coldly said, that despicable woman Su Ro? She had been with Zhang Lingtian long before me. Before me? So, tell me, who's really been cuckolded? Moreover, it was Zhang Lingtian who willingly presented Su Ro to me because he's old and impotent. Approaching, he said, I've seen Su Ro climax. What about you? You with your 3-inch thing. What's the use? Useless. You? Zhang Qian, witnessing Fang Hao unfasten his belt and seeing the mighty appearance of little Fang, felt envy and jealousy. It seemed that some belief within him had been completely crushed, dissipating the aura that had compelled him to confront Fang Hao. Men are afraid of comparisons. Moreover, Fang Hao was much handsomer, surpassing even top male models and celebrities. Add this big treasure into the mix, and women couldn't help but flock to him. No wonder Su Ro chose Fang Hao, and no wonder Chen Mei couldn't forget him. Zhang Qian was utterly defeated, sitting dejectedly on the bed. Fang Hao tidied his clothes and said, You helped Zhang Lingtian survive New Year's Day, but he won't make it past the 15th. Your pointless framing is meaningless. Why did you come? Speak. He shouted. Zhang Qian was afraid of Fang Hao now, intimidated by Fang Hao's aura. Shrinking his neck, he subconsciously said, Uncle said I did a meritorious deed. He'll give Su Ro to me. Su Ro? You entered here to frame someone because Zhang Lingtian promised to give Su Ro to you. Hearing this, Fang Hao's soul trembled violently. Yes, Uncle said he's tired of playing with Su Ro. He's not well and can't play with women anymore. He'll give me his women and business as long as I obey. Zhang Qian dared not look at Fang Hao, keeping his gaze lowered. He focused on Fang Hao's lower half, as if he also possessed such a treasure. Fang Hao coldly said, Didn't you already play with Su Ro? Why do you still like such trash? Is it worth coming to this place and ruining your reputation for such trash? Zhang Qian, without thinking, immediately said, Not just Su Ro, my uncle has many women. Oh, your Dean Yang Wenjin is also my uncle's woman. I've seen her played by my uncle. Yang Wenjin? Anyone else? Is it Su Jia? Who is Su Jia? The female CEO of the Su Group, Su Jia? She's around 50 years old but still beautiful. She spent millions to buy a painting from Zhang Lingtian. No affair, I don't believe it. Oh, you mean her? Of course, her and her daughter. I've seen them together. The sound of footsteps approached from outside. Fang Hao looked out and saw Li Jun running towards them. He realized that things were not good, and there was no time to care about Zhang Qian's gossip about Su Jia. As expected, Li Jun came over, opened the door, and said, Hurry, leave. Fang Hao looked at Zhang Qian and said, Is Su Ro's mother, Zhou Fen, also your uncle's woman? Zhou Fen is not. She's the only woman my uncle likes but can't have. The only one. Hey, Fang Hao, don't you want Su Ro anymore? Just give her to me. Don't remarry. Please, I beg you. Zhang Qian, seeing Fang Hao about to leave, didn't want to let him go. Suddenly, he remembered a thought. Fang Hao was a doctor, and perhaps he knew some secret method to make the little brother grow faster. If you don't want to die so soon, don't tell anyone I was here. Fang Hao warned Zhang Qian and quickly left with Li Jun. You've been exposed. No time to explain. I'll go ahead and create a distraction. You find a way to blend in and get out. Li Jun asked Fang Hao to take a different path, while he went to intercept the heavy footsteps.